Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus Reports. Today is January 9th, 2025, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's going on out there, everybody? This is Ben Dickerson. I am your co-host, still getting myself settled into my seat here. I try not to rock the same gear week after week as we go through the season, but I had to put on a repeat of my Penn State hoodie because they are in the Final Four. They play in the semifinal tonight of the college football championship series. Rooting for them. They're playing Notre Dame. I think they can pull it off, although Notre Dame looked pretty impressive against Georgia, I must say. But go Penn State. Let's see what I have for you here in the Who Would Have Thunk It. Just one. Thought this was interesting. When I say it, you'll go, yeah, I should have known that. So the Lions and the Vikings, both in the NFC North, the two best teams in the NFC North, two of the, I guess if you want to say, four the top teams in the NFL this year, have combined for 29 wins. Those two teams have combined for more wins than the entire AFC South, which has 25. And they've also combined for more wins than the entire AFC South.
NFC South and AFC South?
Yes, not combined. NFC South has 28 wins. The AFC South has 25 wins. The Lions and the Vikings have 29 wins between the two of them.
Well, I mean, yeah, I hadn't really thought about it like that, When you look back, what does that say about those divisions, and then be part of that record with Sam Darnold in there like that? I think that makes it a little more interesting, Yeah, the Lions, man, my heart is always going to be shaped like a 49er. But if I had to say, if I had a rooting interest, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I'll just throw it out there, it would probably be the Lions. I just like the way they run their offense. And I won't say that I'm always with the coach when he makes his fourth down go decisions, but I understand the dial of that team, and if that's what they do, that's what they do. You know what I mean? So okay, but when I look around at all the other teams, and I'm like, okay, I like all of them. I like this for that reason, that for that reason. I just, those are guys that, man, they, like I said, they came up. What were they, like a 2-win team at one point when he first started coaching there?
His first year, I think they had 3 wins,
Maybe 3 wins. Yeah. So, just another point in the conversation about continuity and giving a coach a chance to build a squad, especially as we begin to see the firings that are happening, especially for the coaches who have only had 1 year of tenure, wasn't given a second year to try to build, anything of some substance. So I think that's an interesting point as to what's going on right now. But yeah, man, those two powerhouse wins, powerhouse wins. And then aren't they the division with 3 going to the playoffs?
Yes. Those two, along with the Packers, are all in the playoffs.
All in the playoffs, man. You better watch the Bears, man.
When, next year?
The year after. I don't know. It'll be fun to watch. All right. We got anything else right now? Oh, let me see. What were the numbers last week?
Well, now, I kind of gave myself a pass because we weren't 100% sure who was going to play starters, who was going to rest people, who was going to start the starters and then pull them out and all that stuff. So that would kind of wreak havoc with wins and losses. I came out with 56%.
Okay. Let's see here. How many games we have last week? 16?
16.
Yeah, about that. 56% last week.
Yeah, there you go.
Missed on the that Steeler game. Steelers had the bias last week that Falcons game. Falcons had the bias. Go Panthers. You know. And Ben, when's the last time the Bears beat the damn Packers? Gee, Christmas.
Been a long time.
It's been a long time, you know. And
So
then
long, Aaron Rodgers used to score touchdowns, run over to the stands and say, "I own you."
you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying here? You know? And then okay, we won't even talk about you go out, you win the game against your division rival, and you get fired with the Patriots.
Yeah, well, that's
And oh, okay. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that because I know you're gonna cover most of that stuff anywho. But long story short, yeah, 56% on the weekend, like you said, where people don't even play the starters, you know what I mean? So it's that, as I say, the priorities change in some of these weeks. So your history is less likely to continue trend when you completely change your priorities and take all your starters out. You know what I mean? So it's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, let's see what that history looks like, Benny. You ready to jump into the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings?
absolutely.
Let's look at these rankings here, man. Got a little crazy with the color again, but you got to give credit to all of the teams that'll be in the wild card. So that's all the teams in green here. And as we always say, when you start talking about the top eight, the top half, we've already shown you that these are going to be the teams that you would need to be most familiar with relative to playoff contention. We always give love to our number one ranked teams. So we'll run quickly through that. In terms of ANP, average net points, we have Detroit at plus 13.1. And again, average net and average turnover differential, which is the last ATLD column, can run both positive and negative. So Detroit means that their margin of victory is the largest in the NFL. So congratulations to them. And then one of the reasons that their margin of victory is the largest in the NFL is because they're the number one scoring team, averaging 33.2 points per game, Benny. And that's whether Goff has a good day or a bad day. They seem to be able to still put the points up. But defense, we love defense. You got to love the LA Chargers, only allowing 17.7 points per game. APA average points against the number one team, scoring defense team in the NFL. And then again, back to prominence in the number one spot, Buffalo. Buffalo averaging turnover differential of plus 1.4 for that number one seed there. So again, congratulations to Detroit, the LA Chargers, and Buffalo on being number one in each one of the categories, scoring points against and turnover differential. And again, that differential means that they're taking it away 1.4 times net in any particular, on average per game. So, man, turnovers turn to points. Now, the top eight, which would be the top 25%, and last week I kept forgetting to say percent there, and I was talking about the top 25. I had to kind of edit that. 25%, which is your top quarter, takes you from, in net points, Detroit, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Baltimore, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Denver, the Chargers, Minnesota, and Washington. Interesting, Benny, when you talked about that win-loss combination number between Detroit and Minnesota. Detroit looks so much stronger in the net point category at 13.1 to 5.9, but maybe they just had closer wins, kind of like what Philly was going through for a while. They really moved up.
Right.
Buffalo and Baltimore are tied. I think that's kind of intriguing just to see that right there, man. Because some of the, you'll tell us, but that just is an intriguing matchup right there. Um, and then if you go down in terms of the green, the lowest seeded team there is Houston with an average net point of 0. Pittsburgh, I think we actually have, let's put, I think Tampa Bay is in the lower half in terms of turnover differential at minus 0.3. But at the lower end of the top half, Houston at net point 0. In terms of scoring, Pittsburgh scoring 22.4 points per game, which is only zero point 0.2 points less than Kansas City. Talking about three-peat. And Kansas City wasn't scoring as much as my beloved Niners, Atlanta, or Arizona, who are higher than them. So Philly 27.2, Green Bay 27.1. So we know what's going to happen there. There's Minnesota, Denver, and the Chargers. In terms of defense, Chargers, Philly, Denver, Kansas City, Minnesota. There's your B-Flow. Green Bay, Detroit. That man ain't no joke. And Pittsburgh coming in at 8th with Baltimore just right behind them. Man, sheesh. Buffalo down to 21.6, Houston 21.9, and Tampa Bay 22.6. So there's your top half of your defense, as we can see with the turnover differential, 1 through 16. Well, first of all, you got Pittsburgh coming in second. Then you got a three-way tie. Chargers, Green Bay, Minnesota at 0.7. Then you got a two-way tie between Philly and Houston at 0.6. You skip over the Detroit and Chicago, which aren't in, and you got the Rams and Baltimore at 0.4, tied with Denver at 0.4. And that's all positive, but barely, and Washington coming in at 0.1. So these are your wild card playoff teams in green. We'll talk about the matchups in the next segment, but Benny, anything more to say about this ranking setup here?
No, things kind of worked out the same way I thought they would when we looked at this last week. I believe I commented that the top 10 or 12 teams had an excellent chance of remaining where they were or maybe moving up or down one spot and making it to the playoffs, not including a Cincinnati and Arizona, or I believe at the time, Seattle still had a shot. But yeah, the top half is where you're going to find all the teams that have made the postseason. Um, there's possibilities of seeing some matchups of some of these teams that are in the top 10 of the average net points. There's a possibility we could see a Detroit Philly matchup. That won't happen unless they both make it to the NFC Championship game, however. I think the same deal probably works out for a possible Buffalo Baltimore matchup or a possible Kansas City and whoever matchup in the AFC is concerned. So, and they're all up there except for Houston. Houston, now they're the lowest ranked team in average net points of the playoff teams, but they're actually the number 4 seed in the AFC. So their matchups will follow accordingly. I don't think we'll end up seeing them. Let me see, who did they play this week? They got the Chargers in the first game, the wild card game. So the only way they would probably meet, well, I don't want to get too far into that. Anyway,
Yeah.
things kind of worked out the way I expected them to. The average net points are still very close. The lowest team is 0 on board. That's Houston. And the highest team is 13.1. That's a difference of what, 2 touchdowns?
Almost.
There you go. Sounds about right.
Yeah, sounds about right. It was funny, we were talking about some of the matchups on the breakfast ball this morning. one of the guys was advocating for that the Bears should be rooting for the Eagles because the Eagles would wind up playing either Detroit, Minnesota, or Green Bay, and they could see all their division rivals go down if the Eagles could get through that group. So all the Bear
I don't know
fans
about
are Eagle
that.
fans. Get them, go get them. Yeah, well, what can I tell you?
It doesn't do nothing for them.
It's just haterade. It's just people feasting on it. You know,
I don't subscribe to that.
all right, yes, you do. I seen you do a little haterade around here.
No, sir.
Okay, so that is the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. You can find them at www.sterlingnppr.com. Come join us, find out where your team is, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about what's going on out there. All right. Next up, we have the Bias Plus Reports. The Bias Plus Reports is where we take the matchups and we use these average net points and the average turnover differential, and we put them into a super secret formula and then come out with what we call the Bias Plus Reports, which is going to favor one team or another based on those situations. First up, oh my goodness. You said it, Benny. Chargers at Houston Texans. Houston got nerve to be home too, Benny, within that 0.0.
Yep, they're a higher seed.
6.3 favors the Chargers.
That's the luxury of being a division champion, regardless of how strong or weak your division is.
Isn't that
Somebody
crazy?
has to win the chip,
Really?
and they got it.
Yeah.
And they got the home field advantage that comes with it.
My.
So good for them. Although, right off the top of my head, without thinking about what the teams are, I know for a fact, I remember the Chargers making trips all the way to the East Coast. So Houston ain't far. All the way to the East Coast and having big wins against two other teams, at least, if not more. So, I don't know how good a home field advantage the Texans think they have, but they're going to have to bring their A game. This is a hell of a matchup. In fact, I'll say this right now. 1, 2, 3. We got 6 games here. Every one of these is an intriguing game to me. Every single one for different reasons. This one is going to be a good one. So this is how I see it. The Chargers are going to travel to Houston. Right now, they're riding a 3-game win streak because they beat the Raiders last weekend 34-20. The defense has been stingy all season, as you can see in our rankings. They're still number 1. No, are they still number 1? I just took it down. Anyway, yeah, Chargers and APA.
Allowing 17.7 points per game. The LA
Correct.
Chargers number 1. They've
been able to hold on to that. They've been really, really stingy as far as letting people get in the end zone and score points on them. But the offense had some questionable performances over the season. But against the Raiders, the offense looked pretty good. They were balanced, extremely efficient. Can't get much more balance than this. They ran the ball 35 times. They threw the ball 36 times. The 35 rushes resulted in 137 yards and a touchdown. And Justin Herbert completed 28 of the 36 passes for 346 yards and 2 more touchdowns. They had 0 turnovers. And they had almost 18 minutes difference in time of possession. Talk about killing the clock. They controlled the clock completely. 18 minutes is huge.
Yeah. Can't do nothing.
Now,
got the ball.
Right. Now, as far as the Texans are concerned, they lost their previous 2 games before last week's game, and they had a chance to go into the playoffs on a positive note if they could get a win over their division rival, Tennessee. Tennessee had beaten them earlier in the season, but they got it done anyway. I think C.J. Stroud started the game, and then they pulled him out for Davis Mills to back up. But they still got the job done, 23-14. In fact, not just C.J. rested, but they pulled a lot of the starters by halftime once they had it under control. So good job for the Texans. However, home team and number 4 seed won't make a difference to me. I think the Chargers defense is going to come in there and put the kibosh on old CJ, and they're going to run the ball on him. And the dominant run game should pull out the win. I'm going with the Chargers.
Do you think that CJ is having the sophomore blues?
It seems that way.
Mm. Yeah, it's just something. We talked a little bit about him last week. And like I said, net 0.0, the Chargers are +6. So, that you figure that's going to add up to about a touchdown difference, so I can see that going that way. All right, Benny is going with the Chargers and going with the bias. Okay. I hope I was right about the 2 games on Saturday, but if not, we'll figure that out. I don't know if I could take another game after this one though. Anyway, Benny, I'm gonna need a nap after this game right here.
Yeah.
Steelers at Ravens. Bias plus score 5.3 favors the Ravens. So I think the Ravens think they have broken the Steelers' curse over them. The wicked dead. They got Derrick Henry, the king. The king beats the witch, I think.
The witch?
Really short. Say what?
Wait. Who's the witch?
Huh? The wicked
Who's the witch?
Steelers, the wicked witch.
Oh.
They were the Ravens' wicked witch. Sorry, I went off on that analogy.
That's
I don't
funny.
know. In any event, the Ravens are favored here. Benny, what do you think?
Well, what I think is the Steelers' 1917 loss at home to the Bengals was not a good thing. It was their 4th loss in a row. It had to sting, especially against a division rival and a team that a lot of people wish had made the playoffs instead of the Steelers. But they got they clinched their spot early on before they started running into trouble at the end of the season. It's definitely not the way you want to enter into the wild card round of the playoffs, especially with your first game on the road in Baltimore. Yeesh.
Hey,
In
Benny.
contrast,
Hey, Benny. They clinch with stench.
there you go. That's a good one. You got a good one there. I like that. They did. That is true. Just for contrast, the Bengals, who did not make the postseason at all, haven't lost a game since December 1st. And I think that game was actually against the Steelers. Since then, they've won 5 in a row. It almost doesn't seem fair that the hot team can't get in and the cold team's in. But I'm going to go with what you said earlier. I believe the Ravens have broken the curse. I believe they got a handle on their culture and who they actually are, and they're going to do it to the Steelers, who their passing game has been looking real shabby lately, and their run game looks pedestrian at best. I think the Ravens are going to do it to them pretty nicely.
My thing about the Steelers again is I don't like their on-time passing game. If it's not a big play, then they're in trouble because Russell's just not the Russell that he was 6 years ago or whatever. He's not running past people and skipping around the place like he used to. He's getting buried out there. So unless Russell can get back to the point where he can drop back and just get a pass off, a good old-fashioned 10 and out, and get it done, they're going to have problems because, and I know you heard Derrick Henry say that he can't understand why having him would be a detriment for Lamar getting the MVP. That's almost ironic to have him say that because that's what everybody's thinking. I mean, it's true. It's like, dude, everything that you have should work better. You got Derrick Henry.
Well, I mean, that is a factor. Obviously, he's going to say it doesn't make a difference because he wants him to win it, but it is a factor. It has to be a factor. But he's looking at it like this. Yeah, I'm on the team, but the guy's having the greatest season ever, greater than his previous MVP season.
And we're saying, because you're on the team. Again, with me, it's about time and space. When you have a Derrick Henry, you make the other team space differently. They have to they got to pack the box a little bit more. They got to do this a little bit more, whatever. And you can't in any football team or game you can't cover 100% of the field. There's always going to be an open spot. And so if you can help that defense to manufacture open spots for you because they got to place their players in certain positions, they know either that or they're going to get run over. I just think it really helps. So, the play action, the option, all of that. And we talked about last summer when we were talking about Derrick Henry, I brought up the question. I had never seen him in the option. Didn't seem to be a problem. You know what I mean? You're gonna give me the ball, you're not. I'm still gonna run over that guy right there. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this. Got a lot of family who are Steelers fans, and not a bunch who are Ravens fans, but that's going to be a thing, man. Okay, you got the Ravens going with the bias. All right, what do we got here? Now, Benny, I'm going to look real fast just to double check. Yep, that's it. Chargers, Texans, Saturday at 4. Steelers, Ravens, Saturday at 8. Next up, Broncos, Bills, or the other games are all Sunday. However, Benny, we have a Monday night game. I thought that our Monday night games were pretty much kaput for the season.
This will probably be the last one.
We might get another one. Come on. I like Monday night games, even though I do.
Yeah, won't be enough teams.
Denver Broncos at Buffalo Bills by a score 6.5 favors the Bills, Benny.
It's the 1:00 game, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a little bit of a trip for the young Broncos to come to the East Coast and play the Bills, but shouldn't be too much trouble. They're the number 7 seed. That means they got the last playoff spot in the AFC. They should be proud. Rookie quarterback on a team that was an afterthought last year after Russell Wilson and Sean Payton couldn't get things together. They have made a complete turnaround, especially defensively. But to be led by a rookie quarterback is really big. But they got to come see the number 2 seed, and that's the Buffalo Bills. AFC East champs. They'll be waiting. Now, after 8 consecutive years of not making the playoffs, this is a really big deal for Denver. They are now in. They did it with a dominant 38-0 win over the Chiefs. And, even though it was the Chiefs team that had rested all their starters, but Denver made sure they left no doubt. Bo Nix put up crazy numbers and looked good doing it. Now, I don't care if he had girls out there playing against them. He looked good doing it. 26 of 29, 321 yards, 4 touchdowns, and the defense showed no mercy at all, mostly on Carson Wentz. 5 sacks, 4 of them went on Wentz. 9 quarterback hits, almost all of them went on Wentz, and 7 tackles for loss. Poor Carson Wentz. They looked doggone good. And let's remember, they were playing backups. Guess what? Those dudes are in the NFL. They get paid to play football, professional football. So I'm not saying they shouldn't have got beat that bad. All I'm saying is the Broncos look doggone good, and they look really, really ready for this game. Now, the Bills rested a few key starters completely, and some others played part of the game, and then they took them out. That was against the Patriots. And they ended up losing 23-16. Patriots went all out for the win. No worries here, though. I think the way they rested people and when they took people out was in a timely fashion. Everybody's pretty much healthy. I think they've got just about everybody back, and they'll be ready to go next week. I love the Broncos. I really do. I love what they've done this year. And I've been rooting for Beau Breeze, but I can't see him beating the Bills at home. I just can't see it. Bills Mafia jumping through tables and squirting mustard on each other. Let's go Bills.
Man, look, Bills got that number one spot in turnover differential, held on to it throughout the season. I mean, if there was one attribute of Josh Allen's game that, you talking about fixed it, man, turned it into a strength. So, all right, going with the Bills, going with the bias makes sense to me. That's the 1 o'clock game. Now, there is a 4 o'clock game. Let me make sure that this is the one that I got coming up. Packers at Eagles. They're coming to the link, Benny. Yeah, that is the 4:30 game. And, you know, looks like Hurts is going to play. Huh?
That's the big question, isn't it? Oh, I got a couple phone calls from old friend of the show, Mark Russell,
Uh-oh.
trying to get some updates because he don't live in Philly no more. He's trying to get some updates on Hurts, thinking maybe I heard something that he hasn't heard. What I did was I tried to school him on some things that most really good fantasy football players would know. When you're in the concussion protocol, it is a long process. Sometimes people get through the protocol in a week, but that's not the norm. The norm is actually 2 weeks. It's a whole lot of tests you got to pass. And before you're actually cleared, you have to go through a non contact practice. That's one of the things you have to do. You also have to have what do you call it? Neurocognitive tests for your balance and stuff like that. So everybody got all happy and excited when they heard that he got cleared for practice yesterday, which was Wednesday. It was a limited practice. It was not a full practice for him. So he has to go through a full practice, assuming he's going to pass the other tests before he's declared 100% out of the concussion protocol. That will probably happen today. In fact, they should probably be practicing right now as we speak. That will probably happen today and or tomorrow. In other words, if he has a limited practice today and he has a full practice tomorrow, he'll be completely good and he'll be cleared to play. If he has a full practice today, I'm sure he'll have another one, or they'll choose to give him a limited practice tomorrow just to make sure he's, he's all good. And then he'll be cleared to play either way. So that's what we're up against. So if people say he's out of the concussion protocol, he is not. He probably will be declared out of it sometime today, most likely. If not today, then tomorrow for sure. So that answers that. Now, as far as the game's concerned, the Packers, number 7 seed, they got the last spot in the NFC, 11-6. They're in one of the toughest divisions, if not the toughest division for sure in the NFC. But they held on and they got in there. But they got to come to Philly. That's a tough task for everybody. The NFC champs are the Eagles. They're 14-3. They're looking really strong. The Packers lost to the Bears in a very, very uneven performance last week. That uneven performance saw Jordan Love injure his elbow, losing feeling in 2 of the fingers on his throwing hand, and wide receiver Christian Watson went down with the dreaded non-contact knee injury. He's done for the rest of the season. Just running around, knee just gave out. Packers also lost 2 fumbles, and the defense was very unimpressive. Not the way you want to come into the postseason, especially on the road. The Eagles, second and third stringers, beat the Giants 20-13. That's what I was talking about. I don't care. Those guys are pros. All their major players got a well-deserved day off and should be ready to rock this weekend, including Jalen Hurts, who I just explained what his concussion protocol and practice thing is all about. So this real story is he's ramping up to be a full participant in practice either today and or tomorrow. That being said, I expect him to be cleared. They expect him to be cleared because the extra quarterback that they picked up 2 weeks ago to fill the roster spot while he was on IR They cut that guy yesterday. So the doctors are telling them everything's looking good. That's how you figure that kind of stuff out.
That's a good point right there. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that being said, I think the Packers are in for a little bit of trouble. I really do. They did not look good at all against the Bears. And I understand division opponent, blah, blah, blah. Bears trying to go out on a good note and all that crap. I understand that. They just did not look good in that game at all. I have zero confidence in them. So I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Yeah, I can understand it. Very close. Those two teams just very close. I mean, the bias plus score 1.8 is, less than a field goal between the two. And but it'll be interesting to see what Jalen comes back after all of that time off. And I've
Yeah. The
I've
question now the question is rust.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
people say that the guys coming first game back from a concussion is generally not their best game. They don't generally have a tip-top game, coming back. They're still sorting between the birdies and the stars, and things aren't necessarily clicking. But okay, we'll see. Because I mean, let's face it, we expect them to lean heavily on Saquon, the gift Barkley.
Yeah, in fact, another buddy of mine, my man Paul, he said the teams that are going to progress after this weekend will do it either with an elite run game, elite coaching, or they just got an alien on their team. Saquon Barkley is the alien. Derrick Henry is the alien. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hey,
There
look,
you go.
take a stand. Yeah. I mean, otherworldly, them guys, man. You're talking when you start talking challenging Dickerson's record. So, that's ridiculous. Anywho, going with the bias, come on, Benny, you keep going with the bias, man. What's up with that? Huh?
Well, that's we'll just be the same. That's all I can't.
Tell you. Gee, Christmas. All right. Well, this
That
will be
guess what?
what?
To me, that just proves how good these numbers work. I'm agreeing with the numbers 100% almost. And I never do that during the season. I always go off away from the number from here or there, but that's because I have opinion and I have conjecture and I can be swayed. The numbers cannot be swayed.
Well, okay. All right. This, Benny, if I were to choose an intriguing game of the week, it would, of course, have to be Washington at Tampa Bay.
What?
Look at that bias, 0.2
Okay.
favoring Washington. And Jaden Magic Daniels and the boys come into play. Won't be no 3 degrees out there. Should be nice weather in Tampa Bay. Should be a beautiful day for them to get it on. Um, Baker is just doing out of his mind stuff here. So, like Baker's being Baker. What they say, they play every play is like this is last.
I
So
like that.
I think this is going to be a very interesting game, man. What do you think about this?
Well, let's talk about the Commanders first. They got to take a ride down 95, or they'll probably take a train ride. I don't. Now they'll probably fly, make it comfortable. Great season for the Commanders. And let's not forget, these guys finished with a 12-5 record. 12-5. That's top notch, man. These boys ain't playing. If you talked about the Commanders last year, it was kind of like, oh, the Commanders, you know what I mean? It's no big deal. Now they're major players in this thing. So that's a big deal. So the plan last week was for Jaden Daniels and the other healthy starters to play against the Cowboys to ensure their playoff seed. There was a difference in the seed if they won or they lost the game. Head coach Dan Quinn pulled Daniels at halftime, however, because he had some leg soreness, not an injury, probably just some cramps, maybe a little dehydrated, nothing major. But Marcus Mariota came in relief, and he got the job done, and he beat the Cowboys 23-19. So they held on to their seed. They could have possibly, I think, dropped down to the 7th seed in place of Who did I just say was the seventh in place of the Packers? They could have swapped if but the Packers would have still had to win. But anyway, they did what they had to do to keep their destiny in their own hands. Now the NFC South title came down to the final week of the season. Atlanta still had a shot at it, and the Bucs needed to beat the Saints or hope that the Falcons would lose to the Panthers for the Bucs to clinch their fourth straight division title. Was no way they were going to just depend on Atlanta to lose. So they came from behind. It was not good that they had to come from behind, but they did, and they beat New Orleans 27-19. Good job. Baker Mayfield finished the season with a career year, 4,500 passing yards and 41 touchdowns. I'll put that up against anybody over the last 3 seasons. You won't see a lot of quarterbacks with numbers like those at the end of a regular season. That's big. Almost threw for $5,000, bro. That's huge. And over 40 touchdowns. Oh my God. Whew. That being said, I know the Magic Man's got a lot going on, and I know the Commanders have been playing really well. But I think the Buccaneers are the hot team right now. And I got to go with the hot hand. I'm going to take the Buccaneers. Going against the bias.
Going against the bias, going with the Desiree.
Yes.
Favoring the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Fire the cannons.
Fire the cannons. Jaden Magic Daniels, he's saying, is not going to have enough magic to get him past this Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield connection.
Yo, he caught a pass and made $3 million.
It was such a fun thing watching different.
Oh, it was beautiful.
And players hit their little goals and incentives and stuff, and that was one of them. Yeah, and again, you have an organization that's like, we could sit you down, legitimately and save ourselves a few dollars.
They could have.
But no, you go ahead, make that money, dude. We'll make you glad that a Buccaneer, a happy Buccaneer, man, and it's going to be worth it. It's always worth it when you treat people, with grace like that, man. I like that. So, all right. Now, let's see here, Benny. I want to make sure I got this right. Okay, so that was the Sunday night 8 o'clock game. And again, I love the weekends like this. We will be seeing 2, 4, 6 games in their entirety. No other game overlapping at the same time at all.
Correct.
That's absolutely wonderful. And we have a Monday night game. You ready for this? Bam! Now, Vikings at LA Rams. The bias plus of 8.2 favors the Vikings, Benny. Now, how close to pumpkin did Sam Darnold come?
One bad game does not a pumpkin make.
Not a pumpkin make.
No. Although it was a pretty bad game.
Pumpkin-esque.
Pumpkin-esque, if in fact it happens again, for sure. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's had a wonderful season, and I think that well, let me just see what we got here. Vikings, 14-3, number 5 seed. Weird for a 14-3 team to drop that low, but that's what happens when you have a division that's so strong that 3 teams make it. Somebody has to win the division, and the other teams are going to suffer for it because of their seeding, because there's other division winners in the conference. Now,
yeah, that's why that game felt like a playoff game, because
exactly
the stakes were so big,
Exactly. So win and lose or draw, you're going to be in, but you must much rather have the number 1 seed. In fact, they were playing for number 1 seed overall, weren't they? Or that would have gone to the Eagles, I think.
No, the Eagles were locked in at
They were
two.
locked in at two. You're right. You're right.
This
You're
was the
right.
number one with the bye, all the
That's right. Oh, yeah,
ice
everything.
cream, everything came with that.
That's why it was like a playoff game. Absolutely. That's a very important game. Now, check this out. When the Vikings played the Lions at home on week 7, they lost the game 31-29, lost to the Lions in Detroit. I mean, in Minnesota, 31-29. Last weekend, they went to Detroit. The Lions scored 31 again, but the Vikings only put up 9, a single stinking digit. I thought DC Brian Flores would scheme up something that would give the Lions some issues, but in fact, it was the opposite. Detroit DC Aaron Glenn did what most coaches wouldn't dare to do against a team with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and a hot quarterback like Sam Darnold. Besides mixing up his coverages masterfully, he zero blitzed these boys 14 times. That's more than any other defense in any other game this season. Zero blitz, all out, no safety, man to man. Crazy. 14 times. And of those 14 times, Darnold only completed 5 passes. Eek. Now, the Rams rested most of their major playmakers. This was interesting. They did basically the same thing that the Eagles did, except they did, in fact, have something at stake. The Eagles didn't. They were locked in at 2. The Rams were not locked in, but they rested their guys anyway. Beat the Seahawks, and they finished with the number 3 seed, and they play the Commanders. If they lose to Seahawks, they drop to the 4 seed, and they play Minnesota. Head coach Sean McVay said he truly did not care. Making sure his team was well rested and healthy as possible was his main concern. He took them all out. The Seahawks won the game. They took the lower seed. They don't care. I like that. I like that. I'm going with the Rams against the bias.
All right, all right. Going with the Viking. I'm sorry, going against the bias, going with the Rams. The one thing that was pointed out, Benny, and I wanted to just mention it real quick because you were talking about the zero blitz, but the question was Sam Darnold's ability to hit the open guy. And apparently there was a number of open guys. He just didn't hit them.
Well, when you say a number of open guys, what are you talking about?
3 to 5 at least. And some of them down by the goal line where he just overthrew people.
That happened 4 times in the red zone. 4 times.
Okay, so 4 times in the red zone. Okay. And I'm saying open, kind of open guys. The question is, that was the Lions defense, okay? So that still leaves a bit of a question about the Lions defense. Had that maybe been a different or better quarterback than Sam Darnold, could have been a different outcome. When I'm thinking about better quarterbacks, I guess I'm looking at the Rams in that situation, in that matchup between this Rams offense with Puka and Cooper Kupp, versus your B-Flow defense there. And so you think that they can overcome that B-Flow defense, eh?
Well, let's look at the Lions offense that ran roughshod over that defense. Kyron, what's his face? The running back had a wonderful game. Did he score like 3 touchdowns?
You're talking about for Lions?
Yeah.
Oh, what was that? Gibbs, I think.
Gibbs had a tremendous game.
Ridiculous.
Right. Well, the Rams offensive line and Kyron Williams may not be a total match, but they're darn close. So that's an advantage for them right there. Kyron Williams is a hell of a running back, and I think they can handle them on the ground. And then when we start talking about an old savvy veteran who hasn't seemed to lose any skills while we're watching guys like Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers deteriorate right before our eyes. Matt Stafford looks like he's still 22. It's crazy. With Puka,
Okay, all right.
with Puka and Cooper, come on.
Okay, all
They'll
right,
be ready.
all right. Now, the thing is, did Sam Darnold get his baptism by fire against the Lions, and he's going to come out and be the Sam Darnold who looked so good throughout the season, as opposed to the Sam Darnold who seemed to throw high whenever he gets rattled? That's
Well,
really down to the question, isn't it? I mean, because when you look at the total team, you got to kind of think the Vikings should be able to handle the Rams, don't you?
uh, yeah. But guess what?
Sam Darnold plays up to his previous,
How many games did the Vikings lose? 3?
something like that.
2 were to Detroit. 1 was to the Rams.
Really?
So they've already proven they can do it. They're not going to blitz them the way Detroit did. Nobody has the cojones to do that except Aaron Glenn.
Ooh,
But
nobody.
I don't know. That's why nobody's done it all season. Nobody did it against the Raiders. Nobody did it against the Saints.
We got to put that up in quotes, Benny. Nobody.
Nobody did.
Nobody blitzes like it.
If you got a bad team with a bad quarterback, why wouldn't you zero blitz?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Well,
It's not conventional wisdom. But
they
what's
weren't,
conventional
they
about
weren't
this?
considering Sam Darnold a bad quarterback or a bad team, and they still did it.
No, that's not the point.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
The point is they went after a good team with the only weakness they thought they could exploit, and that was pressure. And they went at it full throttle. They didn't play around.
Yeah,
But that's the Lions culture.
that's true. All right. All right. So Monday Night Football, Benny's looking for an upset for the Rams to come in here and handle their business with the Vikings, send the Vikings home, which is going to just create so many ripples as the contract season arrives. I cannot imagine, but wow. All right, Benny, I think that I'm going to be exhausted after this coming weekend between Saturday and Sunday watching games like up close eyes like this. Because there's nothing but that one game to focus on. You can look at all the small, minute factors, who's pulling, who's holding, who's doing this. You got to love it if you're really a big football fan. Even if your team isn't in it, guys. So that's it. But Benny, that leaves one. I struggle to kind of really describe how big this is. Sometimes, how sometimes you use the opposite to describe something like gigantic shrimp, that type of, that type of thing.
Right, colossal shrimp. Yeah.
Colossal shrimp, you know what I mean? Something like that. But, you got a colossal situation here because we're wrapping up the regular season with the final regular season Bias Plus Buster of the Week. Now, last week you tried to guess it, Benny, and you went a little left. It was not too far off, but you went a little left. You want to try it this week too?
No, I didn't even contemplate. Nah, I'll leave it alone.
You don't leave it alone? Well, let's
Yeah.
take a look at the Bias Plus Buster of the Week.
Oh, of course.
The irony of ironies. You hit the Bias Plus Buster with a total score differential of 33.7 when you combine your amount you won by and the amount that you were unfavored by. And you win the game against your division opponent and you get fired. You gotta love it. You gotta love it, man. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. And then the question is, who wants that job? you know?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. A lot of times these guys come in and they get 2 or 3 year contracts. And then they get fired after the first year. I don't mind that so much if you're gonna pay me, you know, because I think he has him and actually the coach for the Raiders actually kind of have legitimate, um, I guess claims that they can coach because they were close in a number of games with depleted teams. They weren't playing with top-notch talent all over the place and all that kind of stuff and losing, and especially like the Raiders. They were always basically one or two plays, from winning the game. So I'm not real happy with this. I think that this is again thinking about Dan Campbell coming in winning 3 games his first season. They could have scrapped him, but they didn't. So there you go. That's how you build the culture. You got to give the guy a chance to be there and get that stuff done. So, all right, Bias Plus Buster of the Week. You want to take a quick look at the Ben and Barry on football page?
Sure, why not?
We're going to jump back to Ben and Barry on football, our Facebook page. Just take a quick look at some of the current events, hot topics, and just have a few minutes of conversation about that. So, Benny, I do want to mention again, as our Facebook page, again, I did put our previous video, and here's all of the timestamps. So you can literally go to, the game that you want to go to and check that out and the social media page. So that's how we do it nowadays, try to help people out. It's just everybody's busy, but you can go and check it out right there. We just talked about this, Benny. You beat your rival, you become the Bias Plus Buster of the Week, the coach, and you get fired. Benny, is it racial?
Man. Now, you just made a comparison about a Dan Campbell who gets a job, gets a, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 year contract. The team stinks first year, and he doesn't get fired. And we're looking at Gerard Mayo here, who was handed a team that by most people's perspective was the worst roster in the entire league.
I heard that.
They didn't have a good line. They didn't have a good D line. They didn't have a good secondary. They didn't have good receivers. They were just bad. On top of that, he's forced to play with a rookie quarterback who somehow showed enough flashes that even I, a non-believer, believe that he could, in fact, if he hangs around long enough and doesn't get his head busted, could be the quarterback of the future for this team. But they let this guy go. And even the owner in his press conference said, it's my fault. I put him in an untenable situation. So if you knew that,
yeah, why did you fire him?
Yeah, right.
You thought
right.
he was a decent coach and you put him in an untenable situation, and you keep the decent coach and you make the situation
and
terrible.
Right. And he said, I believe he has the skills to be a good head coach. So how about you give him some good players and let him prove it?
Yeah, I know. That's when you just talk yourself into a situation, kind of expose that you ain't exactly telling the truth here.
Right.
But okay.
Same thing happened to Lovie Smith. Remember back some years ago, they gave Lovie Smith the Texans.
Right.
Yeah. And he did wonders with that team. And they fired him. And then boom, here they go. They take off.
Well, neither Ben or I have been fans of the Pro Bowl for a long time. So we are fans of all pro selections. Here's the difference. I'm about the all pro selections. There's no game. That's the biggest one. They don't have no games, no flag touch football, jump into the pool, catch the ball type stuff. These are just the guys that everyone says are the guys. Hymns.
Now, I did not read the article. I forget who votes for all pro.
Okay, so the Pro Bowl there's coaches, players, and fans.
Right. That I knew.
And the making the NFL All-Pro teams are more prestigious, unlike the Pro Bowl, which fans account for 1/3 of the vote and is often a popularity contest. Members of the media select the All-Pro teams. Those media organizations include the Associated Press, AP, Pro Football Writers of America, PFWA, and Sporting News, SN. Any player selected to the first team of any of the teams is considered an All-Pro and included in the NFL Record and Fact Book. Do we have that book?
What book?
The NFL Record and Fact Book.
Not that specific one, but I got a couple books with some facts and some records in
it. Couple facts. Okay, well, that was that for let me see. I don't know if I finished sharing what I was trying to share here, which was our Facebook page. Black Monday, yeah.
Yeah, that's when the coaches go start falling.
So here's the list of the Jaguars looking for head coaching. So they put out a request to talk to all of these. Kellen Moore, Todd Monken, Joe Brady, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Patrick Graham, and Robert Saleh. And I keep hearing stuff that I have not been able to confirm and I have questions about that says if Saleh doesn't get a head coaching job, he's welcome to come back as DC of the Niners. Funny.
You heard that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just seeing it on the internet. I'm not hearing it from Shanahan or nothing.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing that one guy said about Shanahan, I thought was very interesting. He said, when given an opportunity to build a team, Shanahan is more likely to choose his friends as someone who's actually good at what they're doing. So,
oh, come on. That's a horrible way to say something.
Well, but apparently the defensive, who was the last defensive coordinator we had that he fired? The defense
was a good one.
Was a really good one.
Steve Wilkes.
He fires him. And then we get a guy, and the defense is nowhere near as good.
You know what? I think I do remember hearing or reading something about Shanahan and Wilkes not being exactly simpatico.
Yeah.
So now that makes the friend thing make sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a friend that's qualified.
Exactly.
But he's going to go with who he feels comfortable with. What job doesn't do that?
Well, that's part of the issue, Benny. Draft order 2025. I'm assuming that this is good since it's coming out and looks like it's coming from NFL. Titans at 1.
Yeah, that's official.
Browns at 2. Giants at 3, all at 3 and 14. Patriots at 4 and Jaguars at 5. So the Patriots are going to get a nice top 5 pick. Quarterback. And the coach ain't going to be there to be a part of that.
No, some new coach is going to walk into that. Listen, they've been talking about since these firings have happened and there haven't been any big name hirings yet. They're trying to figure out, all these guys that are getting interviewed, what's the best situation for each of them. And a lot of these talking heads are saying that the New England situation could, in fact, be a good one. My problem with that is that whole entire roster needs to be turned over. I don't know how fast you can do that. So whoever they hire, it can't be a one and done again. It has to be somebody that they think can turn this thing around.
Some of the things that Belichick did in his final, years there were just so ridiculous. I mean, hiring defensive coordinators for the offensive coordinator job and
yeah, it got a little wacky.
So that it's been dysfunctional over there, and it just looks like the dysfunction continues when you fire the coach under those circumstances. Jaguars 4-13 also getting in there, looking for a new coach, as we had said earlier, put out a feeler. So these would be all the different guys that might get an opportunity to go.
All those guys on that list are going to interview for every single job.
And some of these guys probably on this list are just satisfying the Rooney Rule. So,
Well, that does have to be taken into consideration. Although Aaron Glenn jumps out at me,
yeah, I know.
he's probably gonna get a job.
Yeah, he could.
When you got 20 something guys on IR on your defense and you're still winning games.
Well, funny that the guy from um, the herd, whatever his first name is constantly promoting that these teams need to get offensive minded coaches as the head coach, as opposed to defensive coordinator guys as the head coach.
Is he saying that in general, or is he saying that in reference to the teams that have fired their coaches?
In general, you say
Okay.
in general, yeah, you really think that's a prerequisite. Like you take a nice new drafty quarterback and you line him up with a defensive minded coach.
But that would make it specific.
Well, that situation is all too often. You got, I don't know, did you have that with the Bear? Was that team head coach a defensive minded coach?
Yes, he was a defensive coach.
Yeah, so.
But the interim coach was the OC, and that didn't make a difference.
Didn't help too much, eh? Do you know who you guys are going to take already?
I thought I did, but now I'm totally confused. I have no clue. But it's too early to think about the draft. I'll have it all figured out. Don't worry.
Well, Travis Kelce somehow got his name in on the 2024 Charity Challenge as a winner. Walter Payton Man of the Year. Did he get the Walter Payton? Or is this something else? I wasn't quite sure.
Charity Challenge winner. That's something else.
Okay. But I know
that goes under the. He's not the Man of the Year, but it's part of the whole.
Probably close. Okay. All right. And last but not least here, this was an interesting scenario here. Up to 22 guys on IR finding ways to win, plus pulled off a 15-2 first place season. Coach of the year. What do you think, Benny?
I mean, he's obviously a very well thought of candidate, but I don't know. How about Kellen Moore? I mean, Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings.
Yes.
He pulled off a 14-3 record with Sam Darnold.
Yes.
That might qualify him as coach.
Yes.
I don't know, Benny. This is the number one offense. And Dan Campbell, was he a tight end? Or what position did he play?
Yeah, he played tight end.
Tight end. So he's an offensive guy. Before coming to the Lions, was he offensive coordinator or did he
Nah, I don't think he ever was a coordinator. I think he was a position coach.
So he skipped straight over the coordinator right to the top spot, head coach. But he got the job done. You get the right coordinators, man. That's what you got to do,
Which is why people would disagree with what Cowherd said.
Well,
if you're a defensive-minded coach,
head coach who's smart enough to get an offensive genius as an offensive coordinator, that offsets absolutely. That offsets the deficit there in the way you think, Defensive guys tend to think a little bit different. But okay, all right. So just name one or two other candidates. Now you named the Vikings head coach, Kevin O'Connell. Anybody?
Kevin O'Connell's up there.
In the conversation?
Jim Harbaugh's in the conversation.
Harbaugh, man, yeah. They don't have a rookie coach of the year award today.
Nah, there's no. Sean Payton. The Broncos were a mess last year. Where'd their defense come from?
The defense was good before last year.
Was it?
Last year was a weird year when he first came in. I think it was a transition year, and plus he didn't like his quarterback. So last year was
So he
just
gets a rookie to get the job done.
well, he got a good rookie. He got a good rookie.
That means it's not the player, it's the system.
I hope that means that if you got a good rookie, you got to have a good rookie, then it makes the system work better. However, Dan Campbell, Kevin O'Connell, Harbaugh, and Broncos coach.
How about Dan Quinn? Commanders.
Now, see, now you just added something else to it.
I thought you liked that one.
However, since he has Jaden Magic Daniels
He's a rookie. You
helping,
got to give these guys points for winning with rookies.
yeah, Benny, but you
Not
know,
like the team was good already.
we know that when you get the right rookie and his nickname is Magic, he can come in and do some damage that rookies don't normally do.
So are you saying Caleb Williams is not the right rookie?
Caleb Williams
Yeah.
is not the. We talking about the Commanders,
Yeah, I know. You said when you get the right rookie.
right?
The Commanders weren't any better than the Bears last year.
Well, yeah, but I said you get the right rookie named Magic.
You named him Magic.
I know I did.
Get out of here, man. Come on. Stop.
The right
Stop.
rookie named
That's
Magic,
terrible.
playing for Magic.
No.
Then you have something that's different, a little bit different. But okay.
No.
All right. As far as that's concerned, could be, but again, that he's got that offensive coordinator that again we talked about last week. You know, as he's been able to come, Cliff Kingsbury.
You haven't seen him on any interview list, have you?
No, we haven't.
I wonder why.
Well, you know, I don't know if it was Cliff, but it was a couple guys I think that pretty much let everybody know they weren't going anywhere. So he might, matter of fact, we had something on our page that Cliff was saying something about he wasn't scratching to become a head coach or something like that. So I think he's cool for right now. He might be he might be waiting for a better quarterback draft.
I think the word is out that he's not a good head coach.
Really?
Yep.
Well, again, he had some good times and he had some bad times while he was there with the Cardinals.
Mostly bad.
Especially near the end, you know, which is why he's now with an offensive coordinator. But he might have grown. We'll see. In any event, okay, that's top 5. That's not a bad list right there. Not a bad list at all. Dan Campbell being at the right there at the center of that list. So pretty good.
How about Andy Reid?
Andy's like an institution now, and then he's got Mahomes. You know, it's almost like with Lamar having Derek. You know.
Oh, so you're saying it doesn't matter as long as Andy's the coach, you'll be all right.
I'm saying it doesn't matter as long as Mahomes is the quarterback. He'd be all right.
He didn't make All-Pro. He didn't even make the Pro Bowl.
Well,
so
he probably had.
That means there's a lot of people that don't agree with you.
He probably had one of the weaker receiving teams in the league this year, and
right.
You know, so yeah, I mean, it's still a team game.
Still came out with the best record in the league.
It's Andy. I know.
It's not Mahomes. That's Andy.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it's a synthesis. I think it's the two. You know, the brain trust. It's the brain trust, Benny. We'll be talking about the brain trust once they settle their issues, and there is an actual brain trust set up for every team, but that's going to take us through the hiring process, and we'll see how what they think about these different coaches that they're looking for. So, all right, Benny, that's it for me. Anything else?
No, I'm done.
Oh, for you, go Penn State, right?
Go Penn State.
Oh, man, that's going to be a good one, Benny. That's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game.
All right. I'll be in touch.
All right. Catch you later.